Hello, my name is Robert Dawson, and I'll be presenting on Pakistan and child labor. Something that Pakistan has become well known for, unfortunately, of recent years is child labor. So what exactly is child labor? When asked why he employs children, one carpet manufacturer said they make ideal employees. Boys at this stage of development are at the peak of their dexterity and endurance, and they're wonderfully obedient. They'd work around the clock if I asked them. But the same employer, when pressed for further answers, he admits, I hire them first and foremost because they're economical. For what I pay for one second-class adult weaver, I can get 3 boys, sometimes 4, who can produce the first-class rugs in no time. So what is child labor? Whenever I thought of child labor, when I first heard the term, I thought of someone who was under the age of 18 who was working. And that makes no sense because I worked before I was 18, and child labor is often given a negative connotation. And so it therefore must be different than someone who simply works before they're 18. So according to the International Labor Organization, child labor is defined as work that has potential to deprive children of their childhood, their dignity, and is also harmful for their physical, moral, and mental development. It interferes with their education, either by not allowing them to attend school or by them leaving school prematurely. It also places an unnecessary adult burden on the children. Many of these children are bonded, which means that they're sold by their parents in order to pay bills or to forgive debts from people that they owe money to. When one child was asked by a man, do you like working here? He said, no, sir. Staying here longer fills me with dread. I know I must learn a trade, but my parents are so far away, and all my friends are in school. My brother and I would like to be with our family, and we like to play with our friends. This is not the way that children should live. So going along with this new definition of child labor, it's something that is negative, takes away from what a child should be able to enjoy. So what are some of the facts of child labor? Child labor has become a massive problem in Pakistan. In fact, the Human Rights Commission of Pakistan last year estimated the number of Pakistani children working as high as 12 million, and at least half of those are under the age of 10. Even though there have been many laws that have been presented and passed in order to curb the tide of child labor, many of these are universally ignored. Children today can be found in virtually every factory, every workshop, and every field. They earn on average just a third of what an adult would make. Children actually in Pakistan make up about a quarter of the unskilled workforce. As said before, many of these children are bonded into labor despite laws that forbid this. They're kept in small buildings where the children are often beaten, and if they attempt to leave, the local police will forcibly return them to the people who own them. So child labor is bad, and we obviously know this, but there are a couple things that go along with it besides some of the obvious things, I think. So many of these children, they work about 14-hour days from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. sometimes. One observer said that if the master was behind his quotas, he would force them to work around the clock. Again, this observer, when going into a carpet factory, said that the children he saw were small, thin, malnourished. Their spines were curved from lack of exercise and from squatting before the loom. Their hands were covered with calluses and scars, and their fingers were gnarled from repetitive work. Their breathing was labored, suggesting tuberculosis. Collectively, these ailments pathologists call captive child syndrome, and this syndrome kills as many as half of Pakistan's working children by age 12. So is anything being done about child labor then? There's terrible things happening, so is something happening? The Factories Act of 1934, the Employment Children Act of 1991, and the Employment Children Rules of 1995 are a few of the things that specifically mention child labor and in part are in place to prevent that. The Factories Act of 1934 contains the following provision regarding employment of children. In Section 50, the Act prohibits employment of children under the age of 14 in any factory. The Employment Children Act of 1991 In accordance with Section 14 of the Employment Children Act, whosoever employs any child or permits any child to work in occupations and processes mentioned above shall be punishable with imprisonment for a term which may extend to 1 year. So there's some pretty hefty consequences for those who do employ children or those who press children into servitude. But the Human Rights Council of Pakistan, his name is I.A. Rahman, says that the inaction speaks louder than words. This government is in continuous violation of the Convention on the Rights of the Child and has consistently refused to enforce those laws that is enacted to protect its most vulnerable citizens. So going along with the whole thought, while there have been laws that have been passed, there's not much that's being done to prevent child labor. Unfortunately, it's something that still happens today, and unfortunately, it's probably something that will continue to be part of the future until, as the commissioner says, the problem changes from a problem of greed to more political influence and willpower.